This is Anthony Iannarino, and you're listening to In the Arena.
Step into the arena. Give it all that you got. Into the arena. It's time to make it your best shot. Chase the dream and break the scene. Your opportunity is right here. It's right here. It's right now. Welcome to my arena.
I have strong feelings about salespeople being able to use the telephone. I'm all for social media. I'm all for referrals. I'm all for networking. I'm all for anything that will help you build opportunities. But you still need to be able to pick up the telephone. David and Marhnelle Hubbard are authors of a new book called SOAR Selling. That's SOAR. How to Get Through to Almost Anyone, the proven method for reaching decision makers. I picked up their book and I invited them into the arena to talk about whether cold calling is dead, how to choose targets when you prospect, and what salespeople need to change to reach decision makers now. And essentially, that's the heart of the book. So let's talk to David and Marhnelle and see what they have to offer. Hi, David. Hi, Marhnelle. How are you?
Excellent, Anthony. Nice to meet you on the phone here.
I am wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So I've got SOAR Selling, and I have taken somewhat of a dip into it. And I want to set up, I guess, a conversation, and we'll use this first question maybe to frame things up. So I live on the web. I've got a presence there at the sales blog, and I'm out there quite a bit. And so many people are out writing that cold calling is dead. And they're telling salespeople that all they need is social media and inbound marketing and lead generation, and they should stop cold calling. They say cold calling is stupid, it's dead, all these other things. But then I look, and these salespeople and these sales organizations are struggling to produce results, and they're not producing the results they need using only social media. Is cold calling dead?
Well, that's a good question, and we love that question. And the answer is, for the people who say it's dead, it's dead. And I don't mean that to be a smart aleck, but the people who say it's dead are right in that they don't know how to do it, so they declare it dead. And social media and networking and all the other aspects that we learn in relationship, contact, and so on are all terrific, and they all matter. But the concept of using the telephone from a cold space to reach someone actually is a very powerful entity, and we found the solution to it, so that's why we wrote the book. So for us, it's not dead.
Well, and I wanted to just comment really quickly, Anthony. I think one of the things that I believe is that if you don't know how to do something well, then you're adverse to it because you usually don't get good results. And I think that's why. I mean, both David and I came out of the commercial real estate space where it was constantly finding new opportunities. And the name of the game was getting referrals, but certainly getting out in front of other companies. And so it was cold calling. That was really what it was. Now, fast forward to social media. Do we use social media? Absolutely. Do we think that it's a great tool? Absolutely. But if you are going to have really success, in my view, you should have all the tools in the toolbox. So I don't think you have to be on the phone and make 50 cold calls a day, but I think strategic target calling using a methodology like SOAR and actually making contact is lethal. And we've been able to fine-tune that to where, you can get into a decision maker or high influencer 90% of the time. So that's power.
And let me riff on something that you started us down with this plan, because I write about and talk about dream clients. And in my mind, this is the client for whom you can produce breathtaking, jaw-dropping, earth-shattering results. And right. I mean, these are the people who they can see in you so much value creation that they're willing to let you capture some of that value in the way of pricing. But what you do resonates with them right from the start. How important is it to really just start with a good idea of that target and to have that as the foundation of what you do when you're looking for opportunities?
So when someone's making a call, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what SOAR is about is not so much about cold calling, but as Marhnelle said, strategic target contact. So it becomes paramount for the target of the bigger account, the enterprise account, or anything that's just considered sizable, to do forward research and to understand what's motivating that top executive and what their corporate initiative may be. And so we have a formula we call R plus CI plus D equals value statement. So forward research plus discovery of the corporate initiative plus having a differentiator that can help solve that corporate initiative yields a pretty compelling value statement. That's how we approach it in the book.
Give me the acronym again, or the formula that you
Formula is R plus CI
research,
plus D like
corporate
David.
initiative.
Yes.
Yes.
Plus D like David, which is differentiator, equals VS, value statement. So if you research a client, you find that top executive's corporate initiative, you have a differentiator that can help solve that initiative,
Right.
a person can create a pretty compelling value statement rather than the typical cold call saying, I'd like to talk to you because we do X or whatever.
Yeah, Anthony, may okay, so I'm thinking right now. When I was in college, I was a telemarketer. I called to make appointments for Kirby vacuum cleaners, sales pitches. And that is what we consider cold calling. I mean, I lifted up the phone and so on and did that. And to Dave's point, I was failing miserably because I was reading a script until I realized who was going to pick up the phone, which was typically a housewife, and what their motivation was. So I really, without realizing it at a very young age, got into the mindset of the person I was speaking to. So I became very successful. When we talk about SOAR, yes, there's the value statement. We need to know who our client is and what their pain is, what their initiatives are, as Dave mentioned. But I think what I'd like to make a distinction is, I think most salespeople using a methodology such as SOAR, where you can really make contact and using it with social media, using it with your existing clients, is where I want us to be. I don't think this is boiler room, 60 hours dialing, 100 calls a day. We really look at strategic targeting, and I think that will shift the current results of any salesperson and ultimately a company in revenue production.
I do too, and I think that there's this misguided idea out there that these ideas are mutually exclusive. And so what I hear you saying is that there's an approach that you take, that you're going to do some research so you understand where your client is, and you're going to do some research so you understand what are they trying to accomplish, and you're going to craft this value statement. But it's not just to make a cold call. It's more of a strategic approach where you're going to say, this is a campaign to get in front of this individual, and social media is a choice. It's one tool set, and calling's another tool set. But you're starting with this fundamental premise that there has to be something more than just picking up the phone and dialing, right?
Exactly, and that's not what SOAR is all about. So I love that distinction that you brought up, Anthony, because we're really about a target approach. So, those salespeople, let's say, that have enterprise accounts, there may be people out there that have 5 or 6 major accounts, and they will prospect within the account to get more net new business. But oftentimes those accounts dry up or die. And so the question is, how do they prepare themselves to replace those accounts without making a boatload of calls? And by using SOAR with a target approach, as Marhnelle said, they theoretically could make 12 target calls per year with a real smart approach using a differentiator, and use SOAR to make contact. So out of 12 calls in a year, we think that at the end of that period of time, with smart forward work, they can end up with 2 or 3 new mega accounts, at least at the beginning stage. And so the question begs itself, does any salesperson not have time to make one call a month?
Right. And if they make one call a month with our statistics, and we've been tracking tens of thousands of actual live dials, that you can make contact with the decision maker or high influencer. So out of those 12 calls, you should make contact 10 times. Think about that.
It's interesting to me because and you've listened in on 10,000 calls and you've got this kind of data. Why do we place so much emphasis on just efficiency, which is that raw number, and so little on the effectiveness of that call as sales organizations?
Because the selling world grew up with a formula, and you'll certainly validate this, Anthony. The selling world has grown up with a formula, and I'll give it to you, this new formula, BTN plus L. B like in boy, T like in Tom, N like in Nancy, plus L equals the way that you make a cold call. So BTN plus L. So here's what it stands for. By the numbers plus luck.
Right.
In other words, the old thing about throw enough against the wall and something will stick. So someone makes 100 calls and they didn't get great results. So the manager says, well, just make more, make 200. It's a BTN plus L theory. And so that's the way it's still being instructed to some extent out there. Make a lot of calls and eventually you'll get lucky. And if you can stand that for 2 or 3 years, you'll finally get some key accounts and you're free of it to some degree.
Well, I've got one more question for you that sort of is on the tail of that, because the problem now is the luck factor, right? And luck isn't enough and it's not working because the world's changed so much, and we know why buyers don't want to meet with salespeople. And I think it basically comes down to two things. One, they're way too busy to meet with salespeople because they're being asked to do more with fewer resources than at any time in history. The financial results are now owned by low-level employees or relatively low-level employees, so they're responsible for profit and loss. And they don't really have time for salespeople who can't create value. And so we've got salespeople, we say just dial more, but we don't focus on how do we craft a better value proposition and be more valuable to the client. So they're right to refuse that meeting, right? So
And I think so. I mean, what you just said is create value.
yes.
And I look at the selling profession as one of the highest professions in the world, in the fact that if you're really good at what you do, in my view, and I think David would share this, that you are like a trusted advisor. I know when we were in commercial real estate, Anthony, I mean, the CEO, it's besides the human capital, usually the real estate is one of the top line items on your balance sheet and your P&L as far as expenses are concerned. So do they know what you know in the real estate market? No, they don't. They don't have time to know it. So if you really know, you have product knowledge, you know your industry really well, you know your competition really well, you can be a trusted advisor. So that's exactly what you're saying, being that value to the customer. Then you earn the right. And I think that they would listen all day long if they got really stellar advice.
Tell me then, and I'd like to make this somewhat actionable for the people that listen. What do you think salespeople need to change to reach decision makers now? And I mean, that's the heart of the book. But what would you say to salespeople listening to this about what do they have to change to be relevant and to more easily reach decision makers?
I grabbed the mic from Dave. I said, I think it's mindset. Because when you started this interview, you said cold calling's dead, let's not do it. They are looking for a silver bullet in social media. And pretty soon, Anthony, social media will be looked at like it doesn't work because they're not getting the results that they want. So what it is that I really think is important is the mindset that if you do your homework, if you are a consummate professional and you know product knowledge, you have something valuable to say, and you use a methodology like SWORD so you're more successful at making contact, I think that is huge because therein lies the result.
I agree with you. David, you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I'm parallel, obviously, to Marhnelle. I mean, it is mindset's huge, but there's another component.
Well, you're parallel because you
here.
have to be. If there's any disagreement with Marhnelle here, then we have a marital problem, right?
Exactly. Well,
You're on You're on the
amazing how
losing
we-
end of that.
I don't know how we wrote a book together, but we did. So look, it's like having a phenomenal mindset that you want to win the Masters in golf. And you can have a great mindset in that without it, you're not going to win, but you have to have the mechanics. And salespeople are not trained in the mechanics of making contact and getting appointment, knowing what to say when they do. They're trained in BTN plus L, by the numbers plus luck, but most of their training is product knowledge. So they go someplace to learn about their company. They learn product knowledge, and then they are measured by sales, contact, appointments, and revenue. And so they have to first make contact in order to exhibit product knowledge. And so the companies are predominantly training in product knowledge rather than the mechanics of how to be successful in sales. And then mindset, of course, is the attachment to that, which they don't train at all, but are open to that world. We have the companies we get invited into, invite us there, and are very open to teaching, learning the mechanics and the mindset it takes to accelerate.
I think you're spot on with that. Everything starts with mindset. So if you want to succeed with the tool that is picking up the phone and cold calling, that's a mindset. And if you want to succeed using social media, that's a mindset too, but you have to go into it with that mindset. And I think underlying it, the biggest change maybe over the last decade, certainly over the last 20 years of my life, has been there's been this large mega trend that you must be more of a value creator. And the more valuable you are and the greater your insight and the greater your accountability for producing the results, the more you can be somebody worth doing business with. And the more you rely on just product knowledge, which was enough when you were working maybe with an end user stakeholder, it's not going to be enough to get you to the table with a decision maker now. They don't have time for it.
Mm-hmm.
Product knowledge is great stuff no matter what, but it works really well in retail.
Yeah. And then the higher the outcome, the more you need a bigger and better set of tools to rely on.
Right.
Well,
I think you're right, Anthony. I love using all aspects of whatever's available and I think it's exciting if you're a sales professional and you really think you have something exciting to share or to bring to the table and you're working with a company that needs that solution. I mean, I think that is just such a, the old win-win, but it really has so much value. But you have to put yourself out there. And I think that's the other thing, is have the courage to get out of your comfort zone. Because I think that's what salespeople have a tendency to do, is get a bit stale.
Sure.
And just rely on what is versus putting themselves out there and creating a new result.
I'm going to send people out to the book, and we'll put a link there in the show notes. Where do people go to find more about you, about source selling, and about the work you do with Dialexis?
Excellent. Well, I appreciate that. Probably the one that has white papers and a lot of information and so on is soarselling.com, SOARSELLING.com. There's video. There's real practical solutions. David and I were both brought up on you eat what you kill mentality, and I know that sounds just out there, but it truly is. The results, we've never had a base. The results are up to us. And so we really we're passionate about teaching people and allowing people to know what we know so they can even have a better life.
Well, that's where I'll put that link in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing this with us.
Anthony, thanks a lot for inviting us. It's an honor. And everyone likes to talk about what they've professed in a book, and you've given us that platform, so greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to challenge everyone that's listening to take yourself on to a new level, whether it's picking up the phone or reevaluating, your approach, whatever it is, because I think great things can happen when you do that. So thanks so much, Anthony.
They are David and Marhnelle Hubbard, and you can find them at Soar Selling. That's SOAR selling.com. When you go there, do check out their videos of live cold calling demonstrations. I am Anthony Iannarino, and you can find me at thesalesblog.com. And when you go there, do sign up for the newsletter. That's what we've got this week. I look forward to seeing you next week back here in the arena.